it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and today I'm going to be making a cake for my friend. She really likes the Little Mermaid, Disney, ice cream, and swimming, so I am taking all of that and combining it onto one little 6-inch cake. I am making my favorite filling of all time, chocolate ganache, and it's really simple. I just melted the chocolate and combined all those ingredients that you saw. I didn't even need to let this chocolate set up too much because it was already setting up due to the butter content in it. I'm not a huge fan of heating the whipping cream and then pouring it over the chocolate because I just find I don't get an even melt and things end up a little bit chunkier. Here I am filling up all of these beautiful macarons. I will put the tutorial on how I made these up in the right-hand corner. It's important, especially during these hotter months, that you make a little dam with your icing and then fill it up with the chocolate ganache so that nothing leaks out. I want to make this cake super whimsical and fun, so I am adding a little bit of sanding sugar to the outside of these macarons. I'm not going to use all of these on the cake, so all the leftover ones can be frozen for up to 2 months. This is the vanilla cake recipe that I always use, and I will leave that down in the description box below. And right now I am leveling my cakes, keeping that knife in the same position and keeping it nice and flat. Then I'm using that Italian meringue buttercream that I always use to create a dam and put that ganache on top, as well as making sure that I'm putting a good amount of simple syrup in between each layer to keep things really moist. Because ganache is so slippery, I like to place this back into the fridge for at least 15 minutes to get things to set up a little bit more, and then I start this crumb coat right here. We are going to be covering this cake with fondant, but when you cut into the cake, it will look really beautiful to have those little purple layers in there as well. When crumb coating at this point, what you're really looking for is nice, straight, sharp edges on the side, and you're looking for a really smooth coat, so you don't want any of that cake sticking out. My cake sat in the refrigerator for about 45 minutes, so it's nice and solidified, which is going to help me get those nice sharp edges. I'm putting a little bit of Crisco on there, and you can use whatever shortening you would like so that things adhere really easily because that buttercream has now dried and formed a crust. Use a fondant smoother to get rid of all of those bubbles, and this is relatively smooth. I'm fairly happy with this. There's a few little nicks at the bottom, but I'm not going to worry about that because I'm going to be adding some details to this. So in order to combine all of the ideas given to me and make it cohesive, I decided to go with a color palette of blues and purples, kind of like the Little Mermaid. The only thing that's going to be missing is that red hair because I want to make that mermaid exactly like my friend. My thought process here is that she's going to be swimming in melted ice cream, so of course she's going to need a floaty. In order to make this floaty, what you need to do is you make a giant ball, and then you're going to get some sort of dowel. I'm actually going to be using a small rolling pin, and I'm going to stick it right directly in the center. Floaties always seem to have that little seam, so all you're going to do is pinch it with your fingers, kind of like a dumpling or a pierogi. At the point of each seam, it kind of gathers, so I'm using this tool to create that bunching effect. Steam that cake with a clothing steamer, and if you don't have one of these, I'm going to place everything that I'm using down in the description box below. And if you do end up purchasing any of those items in those links, it helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Steaming that cake allows me to add these little splashes super easily, and I don't have to use any additional water. To bring in that mermaidy feel as well as sell the idea of sprinkles like sprinkles on ice cream, I'm going to be using a selection of these pearls and sixlets. Time to make the head portion. Now you want to make sure that you make this head ahead of time. Anyway, you just want to make sure that it is fully solidified before you put it on the cake. If you put it on the cake too soon, what can end up happening is that the neck of the person will start disappearing and things might just start flopping over and your head may no longer be circular anymore. I'm securing all of these details with a little dab of water. I would avoid steaming at this point, even though I love my steamer, because things can end up getting too sticky, so it's better if you just control it a little bit more by using a paintbrush and some water. For structure, you really need to make sure that you poke a little bit of a hole into that bottom area so that when we secure it to the body later, it can all hold up really nicely. Here I am making the body portion. Don't make this neck too long. Sometimes when you make it too long, it ends up looking like a giraffe body. I really want to make sure it's nice and clear that I'm using the Little Mermaid's outfit, so we're going to try and keep to those colors as closely as possible. Making this little seashell is super easy. You just need to kind of make a petal shape with your hand. I like to keep my fondant a little bit thicker here, and then you indent with the back of the X-Acto knife. Don't do it with the blade side or else it's going to cut right through the fondant. Now it's time to make my little tail, and the tail is going to be sticking out of the water or the ice cream that's melted. So I'm going to just do kind of a half tail here. Then I'm using this tool to create a little bit of a scale. My general rule of thumb is anytime you are putting something that is going to be protruding out of your cake, you need to make sure that you use some sort of support. Now in this instance, this is pretty light, but I don't want it to be flopping over, so using a thin skewer like that is totally fine. Here I am making the bottom fin of the tail, and I'm just going to adhere that with a little bit of water. You could steam it at this point as well and then adhere it. It wouldn't be a melted drippy ice cream pool if I didn't have an ice cream dripping on it. So I'm just using a little bit of that leftover buttercream, and then I'm taking this tool to kind of mess up that bottom, kind of like when you get an ice cream cone from the ice cream parlor. And then I'm using an actual ice cream scoop to scoop that icing on. I always choose to do all the painting and details once everything is a little bit more solidified so it's easier to put on. I just dip this directly into some black food gel and I am painting on those eyelashes and the eyebrows. I've placed the body in so it's a little bit more angled so the tail makes more sense. And then I'm sticking the skewer all the way down to the bottom of the cake so that head and the whole body is nice and supported. The arms are fairly simple. You kind of make a worm-like structure, and then you make sure to indent at the elbow, and then you just cut a little piece for the thumb, and then you can indent again around that wrist area. Because this is a more cartoon-like character, and I'm not doing it so that it looks exactly like the Little Mermaid, I am just making a cartoon version of the Little Mermaid, I'm okay with leaving the hands just like that. What's great about adding the hair is it really rounds out the structure. Because we had that head lying flat, obviously the back of the head is quite flat, but once you add that hair on, it looks more 3D like it's supposed to. My friend also enjoys the Disney parks and Disneyland, so I decided to add on these little ears as if you were lining up for the Matterhorn. I'm also going to be adding little Mickey sprinkles everywhere, and I'm also going to be putting a giant Mickey macaron on the front of this cake. Since this is an ice cream themed cake, I really need to put an ice cream cone in this Little Mermaid's hand. So I made this out of fondant really easily. You just kind of make a cone shape and then you add the grid lines with this tool. To make this little ice cream cone, I want to make sure that it kind of looks like that ice cream scoop at the back, but we're making it out of fondant. So I'm taking this tool to kind of mess up that bottom and make it ruffly, and then I'm adding a nice scoop on top. Giving this cake one last steam, I'm making sure to direct that steam mostly on to the mermaid because I don't want to mess up the sixlets and I don't want to melt that buttercream either. Then I'm using some buttercream to adhere these macarons. I think macarons just give a cake such a whimsical feel, and these are absolutely delicious. And I don't want that buttercream just sitting out there, so I'm going to add some more pearls and some more sprinkles here as well. The cake needs some height, so I'm going to add this ice cream cone right directly on top. But of course, I just can't leave well enough alone, so I'm going to make this cone golden as well, just to bring everything together. And I'm going to paint the little cone in her hand gold as well. And a little bit of edible sparkle dust to finish off the cake. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of this sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!